My brother asked me to be the legal guardian for the baby he was having with a one-night stand, then cut me off because I suggested a paternity test. The baby is 4 now and they're married. But today I found out through my parents that his marriage is falling apart because what I said was true and my brother is blaming it all on me. My brother Atlas, 27 male, and I, 30 female, haven't been on talking terms for over 3 years. Now he's blaming me for his marriage falling apart, even though I didn't do anything to make it happen. Still, he is putting all the blame on me because of something I had said to him over 3 years back. My brother has a son who just turned 4 a month ago. After he was born, my brother excitedly told me that he wanted me to be the legal guardian of the kid if something happened to him and his then girlfriend, Julia, 27 female. I agreed to this and even agreed to be the godmother of the child if Atlas could actually prove that the baby was indeed his. Before you guys judge me for saying this, you guys need to know some background about why I made this request. My brother has been somewhat blind when it came to Julia. They had been together since 7th grade, and Atlas really believes that Julia is his soulmate. Unfortunately, their relationship was never very smooth. They broke up and got back together maybe a dozen times in all these years. Every time they broke up, there would be rumors and gossip about Julia hooking up with several people. Interestingly, there were never any rumors about Atlas. My brother had been a fool in love and couldn't really look past Julia even when they had broken up. I also know for a fact that Julia had cheated on him in high school, but Atlas forgave her and took her back when she came crying to him. Julia has always been aware of the fact that Atlas is weak when it comes to her. From what I have seen all these years, she uses this to her advantage. To be very honest, I don't think Julia loves Atlas the way he loves her. Their relationship had been extremely toxic, and sometimes it hurt to see them go through so much drama. I, for one, often tried to tell my brother that he should step back and reconsider the relationship. He never listened to me, of course. It took him less than 2 weeks to get back with her. Their longest breakup was for a month. My brother literally went begging on his knees to get her back. I know this because Julia proudly talks about that incident to show everyone just how enamored my brother is with her. I always felt bad for my brother because I could tell that he was being taken advantage of, but I didn't really have the power to do anything. I had been really hopeful that Atlas would see the truth about his relationship once he got older. I thought that maybe being around healthy relationships would make him realize that he had been chasing after the wrong person. Unfortunately, he didn't change one bit. His obsession and intense love for Julia continued into his 20s. Then he got tied down to her for good. Shortly after my brother graduated college, Julia told him she was pregnant. The timeliness of the pregnancy was suspicious since they had broken up and got back together a month before. Again, there had been many rumors about Julia sleeping around with other people while they were on break. Given Julia's history of cheating, I thought that it was bizarre that my brother accepted Julia's words when she told him that she was pregnant with his child. It was like it had never occurred to him that the child may not be his. It's been a while, so I can't give you exact timelines, but I can assure you that I am not the only one who had doubts about the child's paternity. Anyway, I had actually kept my doubts to myself because I thought it was none of my business. If my stupid brother was so sure that the child was his, I had nothing to say to him. I only brought up the paternity test when Atlas told me about the guardianship. Now look, I wasn't going to sign up to be someone's legal guardian when I wasn't even sure that I was related to him. I only brought up the paternity issue because he was trying to get me involved in legal matters related to the child. I was happy to be an aunt and just act like an extended family member, but I needed confirmation of paternity before agreeing to take the responsibility of my nephew in case his parents become incapable of looking after him. Anyway, I had tried hard to tell Atlas that I wasn't interested in being the legal guardian. I suggested that he chose my parents, but my brother didn't want to consider them because of their age. He felt like I would be the perfect match. He kept pestering me about why I had been refusing to do this. I tried to deflect and ignore him because I knew he wouldn't like the answer he was looking for. But Atlas was insistent and accused me of not caring about him and his son. After a lot of pushing from his end, I had to tell him the truth. I knew he wouldn't take my words kindly, but I seriously hadn't expected him to blow up at me like he did. He was absolutely enraged and yelled at me for an hour straight before driving back home. He then proceeded to tell me to stay away from him and his family and that they wanted nothing to do with me after the disrespect I showed to his wife and kid. All this was over 3 years ago. He went completely no contact, wouldn't even attend the family events where I was present or invited to. I last saw my brother's kid when he was just 4 months old. I have seen pictures of him from my parents and get occasional updates about my brother's family as well, but that's all there is. I have respected my brother's no contact decision because there was nothing much I could do. I always felt sad that my brother wasn't in my life anymore, but I was genuinely happy to know that he was doing good. I did have some mixed feelings when I heard that he was marrying Julia, but, again, there wasn't anything I could do. I wasn't invited to the wedding anyway, so all these years later, I'm being blamed for his family blowing up because my doubts from almost 4 years back have turned out to be true. The son that my brother had been raising for the past 4 years isn't his. He finally got a DNA test done last month and got to know the truth. He is now having a major fight with Julia and doesn't know what to do with his life anymore. He's blaming me for his troubles because I was the one who got into his head about his child's paternity. All this information has been received secondhand from my parents, so I can't tell you the exact details of what Atlas is thinking. But it seems that he sort of carried my doubts for the past 4 years before finally succumbing and doing the paternity test. He absolutely lost it when he realized that I wasn't talking crap and my hunch had been right. He has been a huge mess, and my parents feel really sorry for him. They had been telling me that Atlas is super mad at me right now and that he said that he would never forgive me. I don't know what my parents have been trying to achieve by telling me this, but I'm starting to feel really bad. I know that this isn't my fault, but I still feel really bad sometimes. My fiancé, Jacob, 32, male, thinks that this has nothing to do with me and that I should ignore my brother's trouble just like he had ignored me for the last 3 years. He is very protective of me, so I can't say he is unbiased here. I would really like to know what you guys have to say about this. Should I feel guilty? Am I really responsible for what's happening to my brother right now? Edit. You guys seem to be really confused about why my brother has been blaming me for what happened to him. As I have already explained in the post, he is saying that he started doubting his son's paternity only because I had put that fear into his head. According to him, if I hadn't talked of the possibility of the child not being his, he would have never had those doubts in the first place. I think that his life is so messed up right now that he's trying to blame somebody for it. He probably also thinks that he could have just lived with the lies if I hadn't put the seeds of doubt in his head. I don't see how any of this is my fault though. I wasn't the only one who had concerns about the baby's paternity. A lot of family members and even some of Atlas's friends had been doubting his child's paternity. None of them had the guts to say it out loud though. I was the only one who directly told him about it. After what he did to me, I don't think anyone else was willing to take the risk of getting cut off by my brother. Even my friends refused to pick sides because they had been afraid that my brother and his wife would stop them from seeing their grandson. I understand where my parents came from, but it hurt to know that they weren't willing to call out my brother for being unreasonable. As for Julia, well, I never really talked to her much after my brother's breakup. I tried to warm up to her during the pregnancy, but doubts always held me back a little. She stopped all contact from her end as soon as my brother went and ran his mouth to her about what I said. You already know what happened next. Since that day, I never had any direct contact with her. Also, you guys seem to think that I just gave up on my brother and meekly accepted the no contact. I had tried reaching out to my brother and even offered to apologize to him and Julia, if that's what it would have taken, him to talk to me again. Believe it or not, I loved my brother, and I didn't want to lose him. He was the one who didn't want to hear me out or accept my apology. As I said, my parents were too afraid of speaking on behalf of me, so there was literally no one who was willing to talk to my brother and convince him to give me a chance. I sort of had to stop reaching out when I realized that he wouldn't change his mind. He had me blocked everywhere already, so my options were limited anyway. I stopped trying after a year. My brother never bothered checking in on me or even considering being low contact with me. He just didn't want me in his life anymore. Update 1. I really appreciate you guys leaving so many comments on my post. Not all of you left positive and kind comments, but most of you did. I clearly see that I don't have to blame myself for what's going on in my brother's life. You guys have even said that Atlas should thank me for sowing the seeds of doubt. Otherwise, he would have stayed in the dark for a very long time, if not forever. I'm starting to think that he wouldn't have minded that because he is very unhappy about his life blowing up and his family being torn apart. I haven't received any messages from him and don't really expect him to reach out. It's been well over 3 years since I last spoke to him or even saw him, so I don't think he will just reappear in my life out of the blue if only to yell at me or curse me out. As far as I know, he's just relaying his thoughts to our parents who've been patiently listening to what he's saying. A lot of people here have been mad at my parents for not intervening and doing nothing to help me and my brother reconcile. While I defended my parents in the edit, I am starting to feel a little resentful that my parents are still not doing anything to speak up for me. I mean, they can try and make my brother understand that he is being unfair by blaming me for what's happening. After all, I haven't spoken to him in over 3 years. All this time, my parents had their grandson to worry about, but now things are a little different. At least now, they should be speaking up for me and not playing a passive role in what's going on. I think I'm going to sit down and have a little chat with them on this front. The more I think about their behavior, the more I'm getting angry. My fiancé had actually pointed out to me long back that my parents were not being helpful by being such pushovers. He had always been somewhat miffed by the inaction on my parents' part. They did have a tendency to favor my brother and sort of value his feelings and emotions over mine. Maybe that's because he's the youngest or whatever reason there is. It's just that they should have been doing more instead of just relaying information while staying neutral. Honestly, I have also been pretty resentful of the fact that my parents essentially chose my brother's family over me just because of the kid. It was their decision not to invite me on Thanksgiving and Christmas because they wanted their son and grandson at their place. You already know that my brother wouldn't have come if I had been invited, so my parents just catered to his wishes and left me out of every family celebration just to make sure Atlas would come. Now just to be clear here, I have no hard feelings towards the kid. He's innocent and doesn't deserve to suffer for his mother's actions. A few comments here really villainized me for speaking of the kid in a detached tone. Well, what can you expect? I have only known the kid for a total of 4 months. I'm not sure he even knows that I exist. I have no idea if Atlas and Julia have ever told him about me. I have absolutely no relationship with the child because of the no contact that his parents put on me. Believe me, I would have talked about the kid in the same way even if he was related to me. I'm not heartless enough to be mad at a child. That's why I always understood why my parents didn't want to pick a side. You guys also forgot that I did try to apologize to my brother and genuinely wanted to be in the kid's life, even if there was a possibility that we were not related. Anyways, it's water under the bridge now. I have made up my mind about talking to my parents as soon as possible. I don't know if I would have an update for you or if you guys would be interested to know what's going on. I will come back if you want to know more, though. Update 2. Okay, I see that a lot of you have been interested in my family drama. It can be interesting and amusing for you guys to read, but living through this is not fun at all. In the last few days, I've become completely mentally drained. My fiancé and I rarely talked about my brother because he knew it upset me. So for a long time, I hadn't really had the chance or wish to sit down and sulk about how I had lost my brother and couldn't even talk to him or see him anymore. The two of us always had a great relationship, and we were really close. This isn't one of those crazy sibling rivalry cases. I loved my brother and didn't even mind the slightest favoritism he got because he was younger. Despite everything, he is my baby brother, and I really miss him. It broke my heart to know that my brother misunderstood me and my intentions completely. Just hearing and writing about all this made me think, and those old feelings of heartbreak started to surface again. I talked to my parents as soon as possible and explained to them how hurt I felt. I told them that they really should have done better and at least made my brother see the reason instead of staying painfully neutral. I explained to them how sad and heartbroken I felt by losing my connection to my brother and how their inaction made me resent them a little. My parents heard it all and actually agreed that they should have spoken up sooner. We had a long and emotional talk, which actually turned out great. They promised to do better and actually said that they would talk to my brother about his comments and try to make him reconnect with me. I won't lie and say that I didn't care if Atlas didn't want me in his life. He's going through a tough time, and I feel bad for him despite the fact that he didn't listen to me. I want to be there for him, but I'm afraid he's too bitter to let me back in his life. I'm really hoping that my parents will be able to drive some sense into him and help him understand that I am his friend and not his enemy. I also understand that things are a little volatile right now, so there is a big possibility that my brother won't listen to my parents or want to reconcile with me. I have prepared myself for that outcome as well. For now, I will have to wait and watch what happens. My parents promised that they would try and I trust them. I will be a little desperate here and ask you guys to pray for me. Update 3. Hello, guys. I've come back with some good news. My prayers and yours had been heard. I finally got to speak with my brother after more than 3 years. I was starting to feel that this day would never come, but it did. And I can't make you guys understand just how happy I am. Things haven't magically gone back to normal, and I don't have the same relationship with Atlas that I had in the past. But we have met up and talked. That's something I didn't think would be possible a month ago. After my last post, my parents kept their promise to me and tried to get through to Atlas. They were already actively in contact with him because he needed their support. They took this opportunity to explain to him that his anger towards me was unfair. It took them weeks to get through to my brother and make him agree to meet with me. I was pretty nervous, but also excited when my parents told me that they would be arranging a meeting between me and Atlas at their place. They wanted us to meet at the house and as a family. My father actually said that there was no way he would let the family stay broken like this. Enough was enough, and it's time to mend bridges and relationships. I won't lie, but I had expected my brother to be extremely hostile and angry towards me when I had gone to meet with him. But instead, I saw a man who was tired and broken. We actually hugged and cried on each other's shoulders as soon as we met. There wasn't an ounce of hostility on either of our ends. Even Jacob, who has always been critical of my brother, seemed to soften when he saw us together. Atlas and I had a long and emotional talk about what went down. He actually apologized for cutting me out like that and not even trying to understand where I was coming from. He said that deep down, he always knew that I may be right. He had doubts, but he was too scared to address them. When I talked to him about getting paternity tests, he snapped. He didn't want this to be his reality, So he just villainized me and tried to play off my doubts as unfounded. He also said that, initially, he wasn't in favor of cutting me off completely. His friends had also told him not to be hasty and at least give me a chance to explain myself. They had told him that he could go low contact for a while, but he shouldn't cut off his own sister from his life. Atlas told me he wanted to take his friend's advice, but Julia simply wasn't having it. She had filled his head with a lot of nonsense about how I was intentionally trying to break up his family because I was single and miserable. Side note, I was a single woman back when this was happening. I started dating my fiancé, Jacob, a few months later. Jacob's family has been friends with ours for a long time, so he knows my brother well and vice versa. Anyway, Julia heavily encouraged Atlas to go no contact and threatened to break up with him and take the kid away if he didn't. So in the end, my brother was left with no options. Over the years, he had thought about reconnecting with Julia, but she had always shot down the idea and threatened to leave him if he did. Atlas accepted this because he thought he was standing up for his wife and his son. Then as the kids started to get older, he started to have an odd feeling about all this. I haven't seen the kid, so I don't know if this is true, but Atlas said that he didn't look like my brother at all. All these things combined made him get a DNA test that came back negative. You know what happened next? Now that I have heard this all, I don't even know what to think anymore. I know my brother was trying to do the right thing because he thought I was disrespecting the love of his life and his baby, but I am extremely hurt that he chose to believe a known cheater over me. I know you guys say that you have no sympathy for my brother, but I do. He is my brother after all. We had a really emotional conversation and sort of forgave each other. Things aren't all sunshine and roses right now, but I know it will get better. Our parents are super happy about this, though. I know it killed them from the inside to have our family broken apart. Yes. They acted like doormats, but in the end, they did connect my brother with me. I have to be thankful for that. Atlas is now dealing with his soon-to-be ex-wife and wondering about what he can do about his baby. I don't have any update on that front yet, and I don't know if you guys will be interested in it anyway. If you are interested, though, let me know, and I will make an update when I get the whole story. For now, it seems like all of this drama actually ended up giving Atlas a chance to reconnect with me. Update 4. It's been quite a while since I made my last update. I think an update is long due now. I thought that everyone here would be mad at me for reconnecting with my brother. I know I pissed off a few people here, but most of you have reacted positively to the last developments in my life. I don't regret reconnecting with my brother one bit. A few of you had been very nasty about this whole thing and said that my brother would forgive his wife and break my heart again because he is a complete doormat. Maybe until a few months ago, I would have agreed with you. But things are very different now. If you must know, Atlas and Julia are getting a divorce. Atlas had made that decision shortly after meeting up with me. He actually called me and informed me about his decision a week after we met up at my parents'. He said that after that day, he finally understood the true extent of how much Julia had manipulated him. There was no way he would stay. He had been extremely apologetic about this whole thing and sometimes tears up randomly. I don't think he's dealing with all this well, but he is finally standing up for himself. His divorce is in the process and probably won't take long. Julia, of course, wasn't happy and did everything possible to make him stay. Atlas had been forced to move to our parents' place because he didn't want to deal with Julia's tantrums anymore. She truly went berserk when Atlas served her divorce papers. By then, word had already spread about the DNA tests and stuff. Out of pure luck, one man stepped out and said that he may be the father of Julia's child. Another set of DNA tests had been done since, and, well, the kid is his. Atlas doesn't know this man. He was a colleague of Julia who had left the city shortly after their relationship affair ended. He had no idea that Julia's child could be his. Anyway, I won't go into details of everything that happened legally, but it looks like the man will be responsible for the kid now. Very soon, Atlas won't even be on the kid's birth certificate. Also, the child will probably stay with his biological father from now on. That's because Julia has been deemed an unfit parent. You can already guess that she did something exceptionally stupid after being served divorce papers. Well, she had showed up at my house and tried to attack me after I opened the door, not knowing who was on the other side. I was expecting my husband to walk in, but was met with a punch to my face instead. Don't worry, I am fine now, but I did have to go to the hospital. Thankfully, my husband got there just in time before Julia could inflict more serious damage. He kept her restrained while a neighbor called the cops. I ended up with a broken nose, and Julia ended up in jail. Her kid got taken away and was placed with her parents shortly after. Julia was sent for a mental evaluation as well because she wasn't acting like a sane person. I mean, the woman literally attacked me without speaking a word to me. Anyway, I pressed charges, and now it looks like she would have to pay my medical bills. We are unsure if she will go to jail or get probation, but we'll see. I'm just glad this is over now. I really hadn't expected her to attack me like this, but here we are. The woman is truly something else. Anyway, I feel good knowing that the kid is at least in a good place and will actually have his real father in his life from now on. Atlas is still a mess though, but me and our family are doing our best to support him. He's really depressed because his life has turned upside down, but I am hoping that the future will be more positive for him. This is going to be my last post here because I don't think I will have any more updates to give you guys.